Hello, welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Richard III, and today we get to hear from the old Duchess of York in Act 2, Scene 2. This Duchess of York is the mother of the current King Edward of Clarence, who was recently killed while he was in jail because Richard told the king that Clarence, or somebody whose name started with G, and Clarence's actual name is George, would be the person who kills Edward. So Edward had him imprisoned, and then Richard sent assassins to murder him. So Clarence is dead. The Duchess of York is his mother. She's also Richard's mother because Clarence and Edward and Richard are all brothers, and that's why Richard is trying to undo Edward and Clarence so that he can become king. So we start Act 2, Scene 2. Is there anything else we really need to know? I was going to do more of a recap, but I think most of it came out just in saying who she is. We start Act 2, Scene 2 with the old Duchess of York talking to Clarence's children, whose names are Edward and Margaret, because we don't have enough repeating names already in this whole thing. But the kids are like, are you saying that my dad is dead? Because we thought we heard you crying about the fact that my dad is dead. And she's like, no, I'm crying because the king is sick, and that makes me sad. And young Edward believes Richard, who was trying to frame Queen Elizabeth, King Edward's wife, for having orchestrated the murder of Clarence in jail. Young Edward believes that, so he's angry at King Edward, his uncle, about this whole thing. And the Duchess of York is like, no, you don't be mad at blah, that's not a thing. And then Queen Elizabeth comes in, all full of woe, having a monster pity party for herself because King Edward has died. She's very sad. She tells everybody King Edward has died, and she starts, oh, woe is me, and maybe we should just go ahead and kill all of ourselves, because why would the tree still grow when the roots are gone, and things are going to be really horrible for us now? Because remember, she was nervous before. Her son Edward, who is next in line for the throne, is not quite old enough to take the throne, so he would be coronated, but Richard would be his regent, and Richard would be like running things, and this makes Elizabeth very nervous. So she almost thinks that they should all kill themselves, and the old Duchess of York starts trying to trump her sorrow. And she says, so much interest have I in thy sorrow, as I had title in thy noble husband. I have bewept a worthy husband's death, and lived with looking on his images. But now 2 mirrors of his princely semblance are cracked in pieces by malignant death, and I, for comfort, have but one false glass that grieves me when I see my shame in him. Thou art a widow, yet thou art a mother, and hast the comfort of thy children left. But death has snatched my husband from mine arms, and plucked 2 crutches from my feeble hands, Clarence and Edward. Oh, what cause have I, thine being but a moiety of my moan, to overgo thy woes and drown thy cries? So what she's saying here is, you lost a husband, but I lost a husband, and I've now lost 2 sons, and the only son that I have left is a piece of garbage. And you have 2 kids, and they're right here, and you can take comfort in them. But then they all decide that they're going to just feel sorry for themselves for a little while, which, happens. They're grieving. They lost a king, they lost a father, they lost a son, all of this sort of thing. But the old Duchess of York is really making that play for, I've lost the most here, so I get to grieve the most here. And then Richard comes in and he asks for a blessing from his mother, the Duchess of York, which she doesn't really quite give him. And when Richard comes in, he brings in Buckingham and Hastings and Derby, some other people. And Buckingham suggests that a small number of people go get the young Prince Edward to take him to where he will be coronated. And they're like, wait, why wouldn't it be like a big glorious train? And he's like, well, because we don't want to alarm anybody by having a big troop march through. We don't want anybody to think that like maybe war is starting up again or anything like that. So we'll send just a small group of people. And Earl Rivers, who is Queen Elizabeth's brother, agrees with this. So everybody except for Buckingham and Richard leave, and Buckingham is like, whatever the group of people is that goes to get young Prince Edward, let's make sure that we're in that group, because while he's being transported, we can get him away from her family. And Richard's like, you're speaking my language. And that's the end of Act 2, Scene 2. So I will see you tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot to catch up on tomorrow, because yeah, by tomorrow we start Act 3. So there's going to be a nice big recap at the beginning of things. So I will see you for that tomorrow and for a monologue from Buckingham. See you then. Mwah.